12:30 to start. We're going to call this meeting to order, our workshop of August the 9th. And our first on our agenda is stormwater management update. And I'd like to invite Sydney to come on down and give us our annual stormwater management update for the town of Elkton.
If you want to, I can just see before you this way and knock it off there. So I'm okay with them straight there. All right, it's coming up.
This is always the time of the year we talk about not picking up grass clippings and raking leaves. And
as is tradition, yes.
pull it right into you, Sydney.
All right. I don't remember the last time I was up here. Last year or the year before? It's been a while. Yeah, it's been a while. Can't remember. I think 2015. Well, I know stormwater management is a very exciting subject, so I'm not going to keep you all very long. It's the best stuff ever. But today I'm going to basically talk about the status of Elkton's stormwater management program. Elkton has a permit given by MDE, which was given to them by the EPA. I'm just going to talk about where we are as of today. Michelle, stormwater, if you're not familiar with it, stormwater is basically any precipitation that falls from the sky and lands on the ground or the surface below. That could be rain, sleet, hail, snow, evaporation, fog, things like that. That's basically stormwater. Next slide. And how it pertains to government, local government, federal, state government. The EPA, to give you a little history, the Environmental Protection Agency developed the Clean Water Act in 1972. Their idea was to basically clean up the waters of the United States, and they needed the states to participate in helping do that. That's when they created the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System. Say that 5 times fast. Basically, we just call it the NPDES permit. The Clean Water Act, basically, when it started, was the idea, the general idea to clean up the water. They had no basis, they had no formula, they had nothing to go off on, just a good idea. So they created this NPDES permit to give states a guideline to fix the water. That was created in 1987. Along with that, probably 4 years after that, they determined that it just wouldn't be given to states alone, but given to the municipalities and counties within the states. So they created something called the Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System. There's a lot to say. Basically, we call them MS4s. Now, each municipality within a county or within a state has a separate storm sewer system, basically the storm drainage underneath the streets, roadways, and developments. This consists of ponds, infiltration basins, catch basins, swales, ditches, underground storage facilities, just for stormwater. In 1996, the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System was revised. The EPA said, well, we've got a guideline. It's kind of A, B, C, fix the water. So they revised it in 1996 to actually have 6 control measures for each of these permits. All right, in 2001, the Maryland Department of the Environment issued the town of Elkton a permit. So trailing back, a little recap, the town was given a permit from MDE. MDE was given a statute from the EPA, and that was in 2001. In 2006, I joined the stormwater management program with the town of Elkton, and I've been doing it ever since. Next slide. All right, and this is what is entailed in the permit requirements. So, to make a short story even shorter, This is basically the manual for eliminating hazardous materials from going into the waters of the United States. And EPA and the states determined that if we can allow municipalities to do these 6 measures, it'll fix the water matter. It's been since '87, the waters have not been really, they haven't kept their word, so to speak. So what happens is the EPA audits municipalities and counties and states to make sure that these 6 measures are being followed to the absolute letter. When it comes down to Elkton having a permit, we're under the supervision of the EPA and MDE, so at any given time, and I think I presented this to you all before, MDE can come and audit our program, so can EPA. All right, first we have public education and outreach, public participation and involvement, illicit discharge detection and elimination, we call that IDEE, construction site stormwater management, post-construction stormwater management development, pollution prevention, good housekeeping for municipal operations. I will explain that very quickly if I can. Public education and public participation is basically to get the residents that live in a municipality or a county or state to participate, volunteer, in eliminating the pollution going into the water. So it's the municipality's job to engage with the community, basically giving out brochures, holding events, things like the rain garden we have in Howard Street's parking lot. That's considered public participation. Public education is where I would go to a school or local organization and speak about eliminating pollution going into the water. Illicit discharge detection and elimination. That's the area in which the EPA and the state determines how is the pollution actually going into the local waterways. They go in depth, X-ray as you, to make it easier, an X-ray into our storm infrastructure and to see where the leaks are coming. Where's all the pollution coming? Where's the illicit connection as far as sewer being connected to a storm drain, or maybe someone has their washing machine discharging into a catch basin or on the street, or a industrial building dumping waste on the side of their building. That's illicit discharge detection. So the town and any municipality that has a permit has to ensure that their infrastructure does not allow that anywhere in the entire system. Post-construction stormwater management is basically all the facilities within that town. They have a way of containing the stormwater management. In the town of Elkton, we have 100, I believe, and 36 stormwater management facilities that consist of ponds, infiltration basins, underground.
What was that number again?
136.
Thank you.
The town of Elkton, we maintain and control 22 of them. In a few years, it'll be 25. But basically, we're making sure they're functioning as they were designed. There are specific guidelines in each developer's plan or each development plan that states how this pond is supposed to be maintained, how this facility is maintained. Post-construction stormwater management basically details how you ensure that forever within that municipality. Hope that makes sense. Moving really fast here. Pollution prevention, good housekeeping for municipal operations. That's basically making sure every facility or every area that the town owns, they're making sure no pollution is running off of that facility. How can you preach to the residents to stop pollution prevention and your own facility is doing that? So the EPA and MDE gave guidelines for that municipality to make sure that their maintenance yard, which we have, does not allow pollution to go off of that. Any other facility or property that the town owns, we have to make sure that absolutely no pollution is running off of that site untreated. All right, next up. On the time on that. All right, just to go back down, this is pretty much, this is your life for stormwater management in Elkton. In 2005, we created a policies, criteria, and enforcement guide. There was nothing here in 2004. We had no system in place for stormwater management. Greg Woods, the former director of Public Works, along with KCI, developed a plan and a system so that the town can have that infrastructure for stormwater management. And in 2006, I joined the stormwater management program, and at that time, there was no education created. We had to have public education and outreach. So my initial job was to first learn what stormwater management was and create educational materials for the public. In 2007, we focused on training and mapping. I mentioned IDDE, the illicit discharge. We have to have our mapping or else we can't tell where the pollutant is going. So we hired KCI and myself. I didn't hire myself, but I helped assisted KCI in identifying all of the town's stormwater infrastructure. We had a handheld GPS and we went out to about 3,000 catch basins, all of our ponds, manholes. We checked everything so we can have a database to satisfy the permit. 2008, erosion and sediment control. That's for construction to alleviate dirt from going off site. I'm not going to go any further than that. So we were destined to take it over from the state. Now the state has one representative for the entire Cecil County, and they come out of the Cambridge office to inspect construction sites in Elkton. That's a lot. So a lot of the construction sites in Elkton are not really supervised to make sure sediment doesn't go into the waterways. So what we decided in 2008 was to take over that responsibility and do it for the state, but we didn't finish that. All right, 2009. SIS MS4 software. All right, this is year 4 in 5 in the program, and we needed a streamlined system. We were using very primitive ways of keeping documentation and keeping data. Sticky pads out to wazoo. We had yellow notepads, we had pieces of paper, little notebooks, composition notebooks, and we decided to buy software to streamline all of this program. That was 2009. 2010, MDE gave the town of Elkton a new stormwater management ordinance. Now in hindsight, unless MDE had a crystal ball, they wanted to ensure that anything being developed going forward would be developed to the maximum extent practical as far as environmental design. They wanted everything to be green, so no more build a huge store and put a pond in the corner. No, they wanted it to be the most environmentally efficient project possible. So that took a very long time for the town to revise the ordinance. All right, I'm going to skip over 2011 and 2012, 13 and just couple them all up in one brief statement. After the revision of the ordinance, being that they wanted us to develop everything green moving forward, they wanted us to help, I guess, go back to the future, so to speak, and remedy the grade of the Chesapeake Bay. Everything in the eastern shoreboard of Maryland affects the Chesapeake Bay, and its grading at that time was a grade D. So the Maryland Department of the Environment decided to be the front runners and develop a diet plan or a rehabilitation plan for the Chesapeake Bay. And that was 2011. 2012, pollution prevention. We had a pollution prevention day. We worked with the county. They do it every year, I think twice a year, but we finally decided to step out on our own. We envision having Home Depot do some environmentally friendly product demonstrations. We had recycling, we had hazardous waste, we had brochures, we had a couple other, I guess, vendors or outreach organizations there to help us with that. 2013, the town, like I said, had 22 ponds. Since our landscaping maintenance staff was being taxed extremely heavy, we were not able to take care of our ponds the way we should, so they got away from us. So we did a lot of research and a lot of work, and we hired a contracting landscaper to remedy all of the town-owned ponds so that we can keep them up moving forward. That was a long process. 2014, again, Michelle. With milestones and assessments. With the watershed implementation plan, the cleaning up of the Chesapeake Bay, they gave us milestones. Jean, back there, she knows about that. These milestones were, you better get it done, list for each municipality to take care of. And at 2014, they gave us the obligation to pick candidates, kind of like an election, for within your municipality. We have 136 stormwater facilities. They want us to pick the best that would be the most impactful to helping the Bay. And Jean, myself, and Terry, we scoured all the information we had, that spreadsheet. So basically, we went through every single one of the facilities that we had. I tracked down the drainage area. We tracked down who owns it, how old is it in good condition? Does it have a permit number? Does it have what's the coordination, what's the coordinates of it? How old is it? When was it developed? When was it put in the ground? We did all of this as to meet the assessment goals of the WIP. Hopefully everyone's following me. 2015, the EPA, I call that the doom and gloom year. The EPA did an audit on Cecil County. For some reason, they wanted to come up this way toward, I guess, the upper Maryland area and do audits. And they did audits from Aberdeen to Annapolis, Cecil County, Hartford County. They just descended upon this section of Maryland, and they were handing out fines and violations. And I think I came shortly after that. I came up here and I presented the grass leaf clipping because doom and gloom was coming. Their impact was so massive to this area as far as MS4s or municipalities. They had to have a workshop to ease municipalities' minds about their audit procedures because they were inundated with calls and complaints about what they were doing. So 2015, we prepared for the EPA audit that never came, which was good, but we got our program intact. 2016 to present, which is now, Elkton Stormwater Management is now invested into the Cecil County public school system. That's a big accomplishment because in 2007, there was nothing. I'd created all this curriculum for the grade school kids and all the work that we did making programs and experiments for the kids. We weren't allowed into the Cecil County public school system. So through a partnership with the Cecil County Stormwater Department, we were able to infiltrate, that's a good word, into the Elkton school system. And since we've done that, we've been involved in Gilpin Manor, Thompson Estates, Holly Hall, and Elkton High School. So 10 years of nothing to we're involved in every school, basically. Next slide. And also last year, the MDE presented each municipality in the state a new permit. Okay, if you can recall, I said they gave us a permit in 2001 and in 2004, and it's just now being updated. We've been going on an extended permit with stormwater in the town of Elkton since 2008, and now they finally decide to start a new one. It's very convenient because they have this watershed implementation plan looming. They told, MDE told, to make this simple, MDE told the EPA, we're going to be the front runners of this fixing the bay thing. It wasn't working out as planned because it wasn't a real requirement for municipalities to really participate. The state basically said, guys, can you help us clean up the waters of the state? Clean up the Chesapeake Bay. Municipalities said, okay, give us some money. We don't have any. Well, you got to do it anyway. No, we don't. So, what MDE's decided to do is to put the watershed implementation plan into the new permit that the town of Elkton has. Every municipality has it now. So, in addition to that, they added more municipalities in Cecil County. So Northeast has a permit now, after 13 years of no one except for the town of Elkton and the county. Perryville has one. Rising Sun has one. So each of us all have a permit to help reduce pollution from going into the Chesapeake Bay. It's all unfunded. They all have to start where I started or where the town started 13 years ago. And the differences between this permit and the former permit, they want the town to reduce 20% of the impervious area within the town. Now, if you don't know what impervious is, it's pretty much concrete, asphalt. It doesn't allow water to go into. Pervious, it allows water, sand, dirt, soil. They want the town, 8 square mile radius, I believe it is, to reduce 20% of that impervious area within this permit term. That's a lot of area. That's a few thousand acres. Right, Gene? So basically the town has to come up with a plan per the permit. If we don't do it, then we're not in compliance with our permit. And if we do it, we're help speeding up this WIP goal initiative that they had and that they told the EPA was going to handle. Also added was they want more reporting data. I report to MDE every year, every June. It's from May to June of every year. So May of 2016 to May of June of 2017, I have to tell MDE everything I've done with the program. With this new permit, they want more specific numbers. They want statistics. They want demographics. They want to know every small detail of how we fulfill those 6 guidelines that I showed earlier. In addition to that, they want us to screen 20% of the town's major outfalls. Within our MS4, and this is the second to last slide, within our infrastructure we have about 150 outfalls that go into the large water bodies. They want us to screen 20% of these per year. Now these areas are not easily accessible. They're not. There's some along Bridge Street. I think there's a few behind Meadow Park. They're everywhere. They're all over town. They're very they're hard to access, to get to them because they're along the creek. So that's going to be a challenge moving forward because it's expensive. But we have to do it because it's in the new permit. Next slide. All right, this is the last one. This is the main event here. This is what we've all came to see. Permit compliance. The status of Elkton's 2016-17 stormwater program. We're in compliance with the Maryland Department of the Environment. That's great. Should be some confetti and balloons flying around here. We've fulfilled everything that the state wants us to do as far as public education, public participation, illicit discharge and detection, post-construction, runoff, pollution prevention, good housekeeping. They've combed through our annual reports for the last 3 years, and they went through it page by page, detail by detail, and they've determined that we're in compliance and we're in good standing with what they proposed for us. And Debbie Capacetti, I put her on here because she is now the MDE's point of contact for small municipalities, for us, for the county, for Rising Sun, for Northeast. She's our point of contact. For the last 13 years, there's never been a point of contact. I can't remember a name or face. I even went up to MDE one year to say, who am I talking about this program? And they couldn't get anybody. But now she's our point of contact. She's on us. She's on me. She's overlooking our program, so it's not something that's sitting on the side. So things like grass clippings, things like pollution prevention, people putting lawn and fertilizer, car washing on their property. We have somebody looking down on Elkton officially, and that's who that is. She's been a very great help to us. Any questions that I have about our permit or our program, she's very helpful. She knows a lot more information than I do about Elkton and about our program, which is kind of scary. But overall, we've had a good relationship, and we're in no sign or no danger to being in non-compliance with our program. Next slide. All right, just to give a comparison between 2007 and now, I think this is the last slide. We had no mapping in 2007. Now we have a GIS file which can be pulled up on our website. It's at DPW. Anybody can access it. You can click an address upon the property, and boom, you see what that stormwater facility is. You see the parcel mapping. It's all there, from zero to that. Since then, we've added 4 publicly owned stormwater facilities and 15 or 16 privately owned stormwater facilities since then. Since 2007, we had 67% stormwater maintenance compliance. That's basically all the privately owned ones that we have in town, like let's say your Super Walmart. What's another big one that you all know? Behind the old Walmart, we have one. We didn't have a lot of compliance because we really didn't know how to go about enforcing it back then. Now we have about 92%, leaving 1 or 2 which are kind of hard to get to do right, which is a very big difference. Tarumo. That's a very large one, yeah, and they've always been in compliance. The truck problematic ones that we had was Flying J. If you're in that area and you go over there, that pond is completely open. It used to look like the Amazon rainforest a few months ago. McDonald's, Alpha Medical Center, I believe that's what the old Walmart is, they had a problem. But most of them are now in compliance. They know who I am. They see me coming. They see my truck. They're not happy. But most of them do what they're supposed to do every year. And I inspect each of their ponds twice a year, spring and fall. And we have mostly all compliance, which is a good thing. And MDE takes note of that as well, because they comb through all of our inspections. Not do they only comb through the initial inspection, they look at the follow-ups. They read the details in the follow-ups of those inspections. Who did you talk to? When did you go out there? What did you say? Why did it take you so long to get back out there? That's what we deal with. All right. And on average, we have 4 public education events that happen within the school system, like I mentioned earlier, opposed to 0 in 2007. I believe that is the end. Any more? That is it. Any questions for me?
Sid, real quickly, you were saying that we would have to get 20% additional on the impervious surfaces, 20% better.
Yes.
That method would be, of course, to put more the rain gardens in, and also asking. So what's your?
That's an option. Anything is better than nothing.
Okay. Give me an idea of how. Give me an idea of how we could, all this impervious surface we have in the town. Is there strategies on highways that we're going to be looking at?
Yes.
Okay.
I guess as far as your imagination can take it.
Are we eliminating sidewalks?
We could.
Okay.
If we want Kensington courts around town, you know.
No, we don't want that. But
yes, more rain gardens, plant more trees, rehabilitate a lot of the older ponds that we have. Mm-hmm. Because it pretty much boils down to a couple thousand, maybe underneath 1,000 acres that we have to just turn green. That could be a grassy area, grassy swale, an infiltration basin underground, or we can put grass on the roof if we can.
Okay.
So the sky's the limit as far as what we can do, but as far as putting it in the ground and it actually beating that 20% within the next 5 years, that's the tough part.
So what about older communities that don't have the stormwater management? Is that what you would suggest?
Yes, that's probably where we should start first. putting things where, like Howard Street, that's a good example. There was no stormwater management there. By putting something there, we actually helped meet our goal in so many words. Elkton Heights is an example. They don't really have any stormwater, so if we can put something in that area, be it infiltration or something underground, it would help meet that goal.
And if somebody wants to put in the rain garden, what do they contact or what do they do? Or do they just do it?
No, they have to contact the town.
So would be you?
Yes, definitely. Anything related to stormwater can be directed toward me. My door.
Who monitors the areas that are adjacent to town, but not, in like Bergen County?
Bergen County.
They're not in the town limits, but they're right next door to them.
Yes. That's all governed by the county. They have their own stormwater management division. They've got 5 people that work there.
So they're monitoring those
Yes.
areas.
We've only got this one 8-mile radius. And within that, there's 136 facilities, 3,000 catch basins, so we take care of. So they do everything else around. And they're taxed. They have 5 people, and they're stretched as thin as possible. Here we have what we have.
So what does, I'm following you along, I pretty much understood, but what does the audit actually include?
The EPA audit, basically the MPDS permit that they give us, or they give the states and the states give us, has the 6 measures that I talked about. They comb through all of those 6 measures and to make sure it meets their standard. It surpasses MDE standard, which is kind of puts us in a gray area. Because MDE can say, well, you're only supposed to do 2 events per year. EPA says you have to do 5. If the EPA determines that we have to do 5, then we have to do 5, regardless of what MDE says. Now, most municipalities that get an EPA audit get fined. There is a fine. It's coming. That's how they get paid. And I think I came and presented before you all about how that process happens. They'll comb through, they'll find the smallest detail and generate a fine to say they did their actual work. And at the workshop where I went to, every municipality there, everybody that had a permit in the state of Maryland was in that building. So if that building went up in flames, there would be no stormwater management in Maryland. There were so many complaints about the ridiculous fines and the process that they were going through with EPA about the audits. Things didn't make sense, things should have been neglected or should have been looked over that weren't, things. But basically, if they come and audit the town of Elkton, they will find something. No matter how good I try to prevent it, they're going to find something.
Now, does this audit come about because of on-site visits, or does this audit come about because you said once a year you have to send a report to them?
It's at will, whether they roll the dice. Usually, I sat and talked with some of the inspectors. They said they go for the larger municipalities, or the ones that have not been in compliance with their state, and the ones that have accrued a lot of fines previously. Small municipalities, they usually leave alone because there's not much money invested in that. So they're chasing the money, and the town of Elkton is not. We're very low on that money bracket.
Mr. Lemon, you had a comment or a question?
I think Sydney's done a good job. I think we should be congratulated for it. Looks like we've made a lot of progress and we're in compliance. I think the 20% concrete wall that you brought up, I think is not good for growth. And I think it's unrealistic. And I think we should try to get it changed. And what I've heard in other meetings here, I think, is the Maryland rules are more restrictive than federal rules to begin with. So my suggestion is that we work with, was her name Debbie?
Yes.
Well, we work with, I can't pronounce her last name. I'm not into Italian. But anyway, I think we should, maybe, I don't know, you know the procedure, at least start with her, try to get that changed. The rule is unrealistic and it's bad for growth.
I don't think any of us will argue that point.
No.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else from the board have any questions, comments?
Well, thanks, Sydney, for the presentation, and Sydney, I'd like to invite you to every meeting.
No.
Right before our meeting. I'm just kidding.
I actually look forward to this meeting. Thank you, Sydney. Brad, would you like this?
Thank you.
Sydney,
So you take some pictures and we go. Okay, next up on the agenda, I'm gonna bypass waste management real quick. I saw Mr. Vesti come in. I don't want to take up his time. Come on down. I apologize, guys, but I gotta take care of these attorneys a little bit.
Good afternoon.
So we're gonna just bypass, this shouldn't take long at all.
Good afternoon, Mayor Alt.
How you like that? You come right in and you're right on it, right?
Just like now.
You owe that to Lisa. She said as soon as you see Dave, make sure you get him up here. And we only need the Reader's Digest version.
Okay. Good afternoon. We come before the Mayor and Commissioners today regarding a conditional approval regarding work completed pursuant to the administrative waiver. This concerns the Greymount development project, Greymount subdivision, I'm sorry, within the confines of the town of Elkton. The parties have negotiated, my client, Bruce Schneider, has negotiated with the town of Elkton for the better part of a year, primarily through March as well as April 2017 regarding the stormwater management waiver. And in anticipation of obtaining that waiver, negotiated these terms and this agreement that's before you now concerning concessions that he's willing to make regarding the current project and the approvals that he has for the Greymount subdivision, and in an effort to ensure that the town is confident that, in fact, the needs of the residents are being met and that the project falls into confines and the terms of current regulations. So the town and my client have worked diligently for several months to try and reach this agreement. I think that it accurately and thoroughly protects the residents and concerns several different provisions regarding stormwater as well as the berms, parking spaces, everything included within the project to ensure that everything's protected as far as the residents' health and welfare, and the project, like I said, falls in today's regulations.
Very good. Lisa, I know that you've been working hand in hand, and John, can you give us a little bit of is there anything else that we need to know? There's a lot of legal back and forth on it, but please let us know.
Well, as Mr. Bessie said, we spent a number of months going through some of the concerns of the town. It's an older subdivision that was approved back in the 90s, so there have been a number of changes to regulations, to local, state guidelines. So we wanted to make sure that it was brought into compliance because it would have been difficult to enter into a public works agreement with the current approved plan. So the provisions that are in the conditional approval deal with parking, which has been a large concern for the town in recent years, having to do with particularly subdivision or townhome subdivisions that lacked parking, and the town needed to provide additional and incur significant costs associated with that. There were also stormwater issues that needed to be addressed because the town would take over the management of those ponds and needed to make sure the safety was provided for those, as well as a number of other just updated provisions associated with regulations. There's also a provision in there that there will be, every 2 years, there will be updating where Mr. Schneider will meet with the town officials and the planning offices and the zoning offices to ensure that they're still in compliance, that there aren't any major changes that have been made that would require further provisions to the site plan. And additionally, there are going to be revised site plans that need to be presented to the planning commission, which will comply with this agreement by December 2018.
Very good. Chip, I know you and Gene were both involved in this, both very satisfied with the agreement?
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of improvements over the original design.
Very good.
Parking being big because of the issues we had in other townhouse developments, so we're actually have a better ratio than we ended up with over there.
And just so everyone's very clear, this was it was an approved subdivision in the 90s. I think, Mr. Snyder, you've been paying taxes on each of these approved lots for many years. And you're bringing it up to compliance to kind of today's standards. And that's what this agreement's about, so we can move forward with the Public Works Agreement.
With the help of your staff, they're very helpful.
Very good. Anyone from the board have any questions or comments? Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, didn't take long at all, did it?
Have a good afternoon. Thank you very much.
This agreement will come up on the 16th, I think.
We're going to vote on it on the 16th of August. Thank you. Okay, guys, come on down. I apologize for that. Those guys charge these guys $350 an hour. We got to get them on out of here. Was that a reduced rate? Thank you. Please state your name and let us know who you are.
I'm Paul Bean with Waste Management.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Don Weiss, and I'm the Area Public Sector Manager for Waste Management.
Yes. Listen, we really appreciate you guys coming in. Of course, we are a partner with Waste Management in our refuge service for the town of Elkton, and it means a lot. And you know, at times we call and complain a lot at times, but you know, overall the service has been very, very good. I'm personally pleased with it, but I want to also make you aware that the reason why I asked is I just want to get some clarifications for myself as well as for our residents. And so I get a little bit confused, and I think it's good that maybe we meet on a not really a regular basis, but once in a while pop in and maybe we can work some of these little details out. So I guess where I'm a little bit confused with our trash service is we had a few hiccups during the holidays this year, and I met with Dan Hanley, and he kind of worked those out. It always seemed like, and it was I don't want to be the one saying it always happened to the mayor, but it did happen to the mayor. I was like on the last part of the street, which I was okay with by any means, but what would happen is we wouldn't get our trash picked up till the following day. And I got that straightened out. If the truck is full, instead of going to dump it, you come get it the next day. I think everyone on my street is okay with that. The questions that I directly want to know is, as I read the agreement with Waste Management, it says that you're going to pick up our trash based on the routes, so forth. But where I'm a little confused that I've had residents tell me that they put out maybe a chair, maybe have 2 bags of trash, have 1 bag here, and have maybe have their dumpster full or their dump container full, and there may be some items next to it. And at times the items next to it doesn't get picked up, or the chair doesn't get picked up, or can you help explain to me what you believe that you're supposed to be picking up and what you're not? I think that's probably the best.
Okay. And to your point, I want to say that Mr. Hanley in the back there and Tracy have a very good relationship with our route manager, Kahari Treywick. So one of the first meetings I had with Dan was, it was very encouraging from the standpoint, communications were always very open and positive, and if there were ever something that needed to be done, communications are still open, you know, just letting everyone know where we're at and what needed to be done. So with respect to your question, for the most part, you know, when we look at an opportunity or a bid like this, it's generally, it's picking up the household waste. So a lot of times there's definitions of other waste that should be either picked up or not picked up, and sometimes they're either clearly defined or not defined. So a lot of what we do is based off the guidance of the DPW. You know, the requirements of the contract, we're obviously obligated to pick up. So, and then additionally, we'll work with Mr. Hanley and Tracy on the guidelines for the township of picking up one bulk item or making sure that the waste or recycling it is put in a receptacle that we can collect. Sometimes I think, you know, we'll get some pictures from the town where it's clearly an eviction or a construction job, which kind of really falls outside of the scope of, I think, what you and the council members here want us to be spending time in town cleaning up.
The challenge that we have is whether it's an eviction or someone throws out some construction material, we got to figure out how to get it picked up, because what we end up doing is we'll send our trucks over to pick that up, because I get calls from the neighborhood and they're saying, my gosh, Mayor, we've got 3 couches out here, they've been out here for a week. So it seems like we're kind of repeating to go out to get it. I don't mind, but I just want to understand what the rules are, I guess is where I'm getting at.
I believe the guidance is that each resident can put a bulk item per collection.
Okay, so one bulk item per collection is acceptable to you guys?
Yes.
Any items above one bulk item, then it should be, I guess at that point, if we can get that resident to take that additional bulk item to maybe our public works department into that dumpster, and that still would be acceptable to you guys because you'll pick up the big dump. Yes.
They won't, just a comment, they won't pick up anything that contains freon. Because it has to have a certificate where that freon's been extracted, we could touch that.
Correct.
That was when we discussed this, that we did that contract negotiation. So things like that, where batteries or hazardous materials, paint,
Correct.
stuff like that, those are things that they won't pick up, even except for landfill under certain circumstances.
Okay.
So,
Listen, I feel that I'm pretty clear right now. Does anyone from the board have any questions or comments or some situations that you ran across?
I think you answered my situation. But how do we explain to the residents or explain to them that it's a bulk item and another pickup? Because as Robbie alluded to the fact previously, you will see 2 or 3 couches out there, and they think it's their right to stick it out there because that's trash, but it isn't. I guess then that becomes part of your job or our job.
If it comes to us with a telephone call, we can explain to the resident, you know, the policy. We do it once a week, because if you have, let's say, 5 couches, they fill up the trucks. Because when waste management, you know, we have trash pickup Monday, Tuesday, I'll put some detail. They come in with, what do we got, like 4 or 5 trucks. You come in with a massive amount of trucks. Like on Mondays, it looks like it was 1 truck. No, it's like 5 of them. So they get that way. Like Tuesdays, you have like 3, right? Or less?
Mondays 4, Tuesdays 3.
Right. So essentially, they're attacking this town with 4,500 residents with 7 trucks. So they got to be pretty efficient. So when the trash gallons were set up, we're trying to figure out, okay, how do we not get to the first one and, you know, fill up trucks, you know, to take care of everybody.
Dan, in the new resident guide, did we specify one bulk item per? Perfect.
Yes. It's been the same one exactly.
Okay, okay.
And honestly, doing the bulk items above and beyond. We try to help out the residents that way. So if it's one mattress or one, you know, one sofa or something, they'll take it. The reason why the wooden issue came into play, because a lot of times we won't have construction debris, we won't take on furniture. Then they went back to us saying, well, wood is wood. I was like, okay, you're right, that's the case. And that's why we kind of excluded it. But at the same time, we encourage the residents, you know, I've got, you know, dumpster, I've got availabilities. If you're bringing it down there, it's a lot easier that way. So it's, you know, more efficient that way.
So just to be clear, we can, and it's not your guys' issue now. Just to be
It's our issue. We're team.
But just to be clear, we can tell our residents that if they had a bulk item and they didn't want to wait until that one bulk day,
We should try to regular trash day.
they can bring it down to your location and we will dispose of it as long as it doesn't have freon in it, as long as it's not a battery item. Now, what if it's wood furniture?
You can bring it to my dumpster and we can dispose of it.
Okay, very good. Is everyone on the board very clear with this?
Yes, and I think we should get it out on Facebook.
It will be.
So one bulk item is one thing, but what about one bulk pile? Next to the trash. I mean, it's still considered trash, right?
What do you mean by bulk
Like
pile?
if you have your trash cans full and then you have other stuff piled up.
And again,
It's
what
still
we,
trash.
what we talk about in the guide is we get up to two of the big containers, those containers are what we got down, about 96 gallons.
96 gallons.
It's a lot, I mean, they're pretty heavy. And if you got two of them, normally we'll take a full can and a couple bags, we got it, we'll take care of that. Sometimes if it's a party we know about it, again, not an issue. But you gotta watch it, a lot of times they'll.
And to add what Gene was saying, that anytime, of course, after June, maybe the whole month of June into July, you have graduation parties. And we were getting calls because they would have a pretty good sized party, they'd have the 96 filled,
Right.
and then they have 6 or 7 bags, and the 6 or 7 bags, I was told that they weren't getting picked up. Now, maybe they were getting picked up, but I was being told that they weren't being picked up.
Because of our relationship with the drivers, we know it's a party, we know it's a move out. The guys, when they actually do it,
Okay.
they've been doing it so long, they're pretty quick to
So
figure it out.
really, I would think Dan's department should be monitoring those calls, and if he thinks there's a problem with waste management, then,
We call all the time, we
Address
constantly
waste
talk to each
management,
other, yes.
right?
All you're liking this is we
But
didn't ask you a question.
This does, I mean, this, the onus of all the problems fall on you.
We'll start getting texts like 6 in the morning, or something, some weird things, we believe me. The drivers, like I said, fortunately, they've been doing it so long, they know it's normal, they know it's heavy, they'll work with us to see what's wrong, they can get it. But they also know, they can tell a move out, they can tell if it's a dump job, they're pretty good at what they do. And we try to work with them accordingly, but, you know, like John said in the beginning, we're constantly we talk all the time.
Yeah, we have a pretty
We're
open,
not drivers.
pretty open communication, they have the driver's phone numbers,
Oh, yeah.
and
And we'll work with you, the residents, we'll work to see what's what, it's not a problem. It's just sometimes, you know,
The other thing that I would like to ask Waste Management maybe to help us with would be, we have, I would like to figure out how we could perform some type of trash audit. And when I say trash audit, I would say that you probably don't have all the businesses trash commercially in the town. Is that something that you would probably like to have?
Sure, it would make sense. Less trucks on the road, coming through the town with one vendor.
Of course, my idea is that we have a lot of trash that accumulates on our main streets, and they're from apartments up top, and in a lot of cases, in all cases, they'll bring their trash down. Sometimes they'll bring it down on a Sunday, and even though we don't pick it up till Tuesday. And I'd like to be able to figure out where we could put commercial trash containers, maybe in areas of the downtown that the residents that live on Main Street, maybe North Street, can actually take their trash to the container instead of having it on the street. Now, along with that, I think that we're going to have to partner with the business owners, because I wouldn't want to have additional containers, and we really don't probably have the space to put the containers unless it was in the business owners' area. So what if you can help us maybe determine where they need to be and what business area they need to be at, I will work on trying to get that business to become a partner with us and be a partner with you guys, and maybe it could work collectively for all parties.
Sure, I mean, we'll commit to, doing an evaluation of those areas, see where the waste is being generated, where it's being put down, and if there's any alternatives as far as being containerized.
And I would even take an additional step. If you felt going into neighborhoods, some of our townhouse residents, I'll use Delancey Village and Turnquist, I don't know if it would make sense for us to have a large dumpster in the area where the residents can take and walk and put their trash in Or does it make sense your driver continually stopping at each driveway and picking them up? I don't know. But if it makes,
Okay.
do you see where I'm going?
I do. Just keep in mind, there are two different trucks that pick up
I
the two
understand.
different type of, services that we have outlined in the contract.
Understand.
So it all depends, if we're already going to the water treatment plant, and there's a container there and the truck's next to it, if there's a facility or apartment next to it, then, yeah, maybe it does make sense to put it in a large container.
Okay.
Their only hesitancy about that one, in fact, we just experienced it this week at the community cleanup where we dropped the dumpsters off in 7 different areas on Friday, pick up on Tuesday, 5 of the 7 were fine. The other 2, ever since the initial on Saturday, were really like nuts. So we were able to knock one down, not a problem. And then last night, at Washington Wood, boom, there's more dumping. That's why we had to clean up this morning, clean the dumpster out of there. So we only hesitate because if you leave it, they can tell, they'll track them like magnets. So that's
Okay,
that.
understand.
That's why it's always a trade-off.
Get a lot of construction debris in too, people.
Oh, yeah, they
Those
can.
dumpsters sitting there, they're going to throw themselves in.
Mr. Lemon, you had another comment or question?
I'm back on the first thing. Would it be helpful for the driver to, if the driver doesn't pick something up, for the driver to notify Dan's office that he
They do.
didn't pick it up and where it was so Dan can take care of it?
You know, it's a very, once again, Mr. Lemon, I gotta applaud you for these great comments. You're saying that's happening. Been very good. I don't expect to have another call about another piece of furniture or trash on the street. I appreciate you bringing that up.
I thought the drivers were doing that because I remember when we had our own train service, they used to do that.
Okay.
Right, they'll contact us, and sometimes what happens is we need to find a reason behind it. Like sometimes, a lot of times we get a call saying, they haven't gotten it yet. Oh, okay, the first question we ask is it your entire neighborhood or just you? The entire neighborhood, that's okay, they're running sometimes saying, great, we'll see what's what. But if it's just then we start doing the evaluation. There's a reason behind it. Sometimes, I can probably count in 5 years, maybe in my hand, 2 hands, how many times he just missed it because of a house. Sometimes what happens is, if it comes out, if it's too late to already pass by, we'll get that call. Waste Management actually has a timestamp. We know when they're in the neighborhood, so a lot of times we check that out. So a lot of times, if they truly forget, we'll try to go back the other way. But generally, these guys they're very receptive. I mean, we've used them for years, and the amount of business they do is good.
What is the determination between the bulk trash versus a lot of trash? And who's determining that when it comes to that? But, the bulk trash pickup to me is more like a sofa.
Yes.
A appliance, one thing, not bags of trash.
Michelle gets a lot of the calls from when the pickup is not being done. Michelle, could you explain what's happening there?
The idea that if the driver contacts DPW because they can't pick up something for whatever reason, and then to Dan, DPW does not tell the resident that your trash was not picked up because of, and that's where the issue comes, because the resident sees the driver look at their trash, leave it, calls DPW, but the resident is not followed up with to be told why their trash was picked up. That's why we get the call.
We'll probably get like maybe 50% of the calls they'll find it, they'll follow through with us, and they talk to us, and we have a list of what. So that's.
My point is that the resident doesn't get contacted, that their trash did not get picked up.
And they call us.
Correct.
Does anyone from the board have any other questions or comments for Waste Management?
The only question I have is about Main Street. I mean, do you have any experience with other municipalities? Do they have any clever ways of dealing with their trash on Main Streets?
Honestly, I'm not familiar enough with the Main Street area to make that recommendation. I will tell you, I have oversight of over 100 municipal contracts, so I have enough to go back and say, give me some best practices.
I was just wondering,
Yeah.
if anybody has come up with a clever solution.
I can meet with Don and Paul, I can
Yeah.
show them what's what.
That would be great. Mr. Lemon, you had another
Thank you.
comment.
Back on Michelle's comment, one thing you could do is have something printed up and just put it on the goods that weren't taken. This was not taken because it doesn't comply with contract, contact so-and-so or do so-and-so, but whatever you would put on there, it would be relevant. Just
I think Don's on that. He's already on that.
Thank you, Mr. Lemon.
Well, you're already
But,
on
yeah,
that.
You're on
we
it.
do have a sticker program.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that's exactly what we need to do.
I didn't know you.
Well, listen, I really appreciate you guys coming, and
Thanks for coming.
we value our partnership, and I thought it was important for me to hear, just to get some clarifications on a few of these things, because based on the contract, I was reading it a little differently, and I understand the side of it now.
Great. And we appreciate our relationship and your time today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see. Was yard waste collection included already, or did we, I think it kind of got.
Guy Gooder, it's fine.
Yeah,
Yeah, did you have any questions in regards to yard waste?
No.
I think one of the things you need to hit on that is that one of the things that Public Works runs into, and Dan can add some comment to it, is that a lot of residents will say, the truck came by and didn't pick up all their waste, and they'll have a mixture of grass, sticks, concrete blocks, rebar, and all this all in a big pile. And that will damage our equipment, so if it's just a pile of grass, we'll pick it up.
I think if
It's a mixed pile, and dirt and big root masses and stuff, they can't pick that up with our equipment unless they bring a backhoe and truck out there.
To clarify that one, I had my crew in the back, Larry Atkins, where about Larry, here we go. What he does is, he'll follow my guys in the route, he's in charge of town services. Larry's in charge of all the guys who interact with the public, you'll see him all the time. And what he does is he actually makes lists to see what's out there and, you know, how many clean piles versus the other stuff, he knows what's what. And what we do is we'll either go after hours, we'll do special pickups with backhoes, and that's what we have to do. We don't.
I've seen that.
Oh, yeah, that's why a lot of times.
After 5 o'clock,
Oh,
they're
yeah,
out there with backhoes.
that's the reason why.
Well, once again, once again, I think it'd be great if you could put a sticker on that pile to let them know that, hey, we went by, it's a mixed pile, and we'll be back later to get it, instead of them having to come in. I think that would be a great direction, but to go a little
He's
step.
working on the card now, so.
Door hangers would be great.
That's not bad.
The, I think a step that I would like to try, and if I could get the board's permission, and I'm not sure, I'll be the feature in this, or we can all do it collectively, or we get Dan to be the feature, or Lewis, he's always good at this. But I think, if we did a YouTube video, and in that YouTube video, we film it, and we show what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. Whether it's, it would only take 4 or 5 little videos, and we could probably film them all in one day. The first one would be, here's a mixed pile. This is the reason why we can't do it, but here is what we can take. Here is the size of the debris that we can take. And I think that we could also do that into the trash side of things. We could say, here's what's acceptable, and then here's the type of furniture that we can take, and here's a piece of wooden furniture that we would recommend for you to take to Public Works and see Dan Hanley with. Right? I think that we could create that.
I like that.
You guys like that? You think that would work?
it's a good try.
Certainly won't hurt.
Okay, well,
What about,
we'll
like,
start working on that.
if you have brush collection in Elkton Heights on Friday, and it doesn't happen, I know, so that's gonna happen the following Friday? Is that the
Generally,
game plan?
unless, I'll defer that to you. Generally, we're pretty good about it, you see, because especially in neighborhoods, we make sure we hit it. Unless it's a real bad monsoon, we should hit it. There's spots we're missing that he's aware of it, then sometimes we go back to the plan B, which means, you know, Fridays is your minimum, but I may go back on a Tuesday afternoon. If I missed anything, we'll grab it at the same time.
You just send dump trucks back.
Yeah, we'll send that also, there's a reason behind it. So a lot of times it's, you know.
I'm trying to, I'll have a discussion. I'm trying to,
Okay, anything?
no, I haven't. You know,
Ground Street and everything? They're pretty good about it, so.
611 dead end. What I'm concerned about is it the wrong mix? You know, it's a concern.
Oh, yeah, we'll tell you what's what, yeah, we'll put.
Tell us what's what.
Thank you so much. Okay, next item on the agenda, I want to talk a little bit about this memorandum of understanding with Cecil County. Everyone should have a copy of a memorandum of understanding in front of them, I think. Yep, yep. What this is in regards to is a couple weeks ago, the mayors of Cecil County met with the county executive. We met with the public works director, town managers. Lou was there at the meeting also. And the idea of this memorandum of understanding is making, being able to form a group and have discussions to see how we can improve our water and sewer structure throughout Cecil County. Now, they want input from the mayors and the council on this. And I think the ultimate goal for Cecil County, if it was to lead down this way, would be to form a water sewer authority. Now, I don't know what all that means for the residents of the town of Elkton, but I think we should, as a municipality, show our support to the rest of the group that will participate in the discussions. As I've stated, I don't believe that the town of Elkton, this would benefit the town of Elkton from a standpoint of the water sewer authority. But I believe that there's some things in this that could come out of it. Maybe we could help towns like Port Deposit and Perryville and Chesapeake City with our buying power of chemicals, that it could help them. And if it helps them, it helps the county, it helps all of us when it comes down to it. So it's a very loose agreement. There's no commitment from anyone other than we're going to kind of participate in the work group so it can be studied, so that we can determine goals, challenges, benefits, concerns, feasibility of a water sewer authority, develop guiding principles for future consideration based on comprehensive plans, define preliminary concepts for service and service areas, financial impacts and feasibility for Cecil County government and individual municipalities. Now, I will say, if we had something like this maybe 10 years ago, and I think that they tried this maybe 15 years ago, maybe the town of Elkton wouldn't have been, maybe the county government wouldn't have blocked us, and they probably wouldn't have gave Artesian the rights to our water going to Elkton West, because we can't grow to Elkton West. So I think that if we can open up these communications and be at the table, I think at least we'll be better prepared and aware of what the county government is doing. So is there any questions, comments? Lou, I know you probably had, are you okay with it as far as a...
I'm against the sewer authority because
Yes.
any expenditure of money into anything would be the result of money paid by our ratepayers. And our goal is to reduce water and sewer rates, so we have no source of revenue to support engineering or capital improvements or anything beyond our boundaries. So I don't know what the county's theory is there.
No, I agree with you. I think that, when you look at the water and sewer rates, I continue to try to get this one plugged in. We have some of the lowest water and sewer rates in the state of Maryland. And then you look at our adjoining municipalities, the municipality to our west is 3 times higher. So when you look at those numbers, I can't see how combining everything is going to help the lowest guy be the lowest. And I don't think that our impact would bring everyone else lower. So that's where we're at. I'm going to ask the board to support me in signing it next Wednesday, so give it some thought.
I think that part might be a drawback, but I think it has more merit than it has an activity because you know, sometimes when forces come together, you get things accomplished.
So you're gonna be the contact person?
I am,
You are?
yeah.
But my question is, at any point of time, like, because, you know, we constantly go to Gene or something to find out about all this, will they be able to be involved if necessary?
Yeah, I absolutely believe, I think that we can, I think the work group will perform its charge function between, well, it says July 14th, but it'd be from the time it would be signed, but they're looking at deciding how these things can come together by the end of the year. So I think it's a very quick understanding, and I'll just go to the table and see what we come up with. So we'll bring it up next Wednesday for a vote and go from there. All right, Lou, can you talk a little bit about the Victor McCool Readiness Center? What are we allowed to say? Is there things we're allowed to say in this?
Well, one thing you could say is it's been declared surplus by the Maryland Military Department, and it's in the, been referred to the Department of General Services, and it's in the clearinghouse process, and that's how we were notified the county, because they don't notify municipalities, they notify counties. And because the armory's in the county, they notified us to see if we had interest in it. I don't believe the board has an interest in pursuing it as a community center in lieu of doing the other ones, so I've notified them that we're not interested. The county may be interested, but I'm not at liberty to say what their interest might be, or how it might materialize at that county.
But does that have to be pursued as a community center? If we were interested, I'm quite sure there's other features.
I'm not saying that you would have to, I'm just saying that the cost, the general fund cost to acquire and maintain that facility would be more, bigger demand on the general fund.
That's what's clear now, let's put it that way.
Yeah. One thing I would say, in June 2nd, they had the groundbreaking for the Readiness Center in Easton, and that's supposed to be completed sometime in 2019. So the Company D, 1st Battalion, 175th Infantry Unit that's over here will go to Easton. But under the provisions that the clearinghouse put out, 300 square feet of that property over there, office space, has to be reserved for the recruiting, because they were very successful in recruiting Army National Guard there. So whoever acquires it will have to provide for the Army National Guard recruitment people there for a period of time. I think it's 3 years or something like that.
I'm surprised that, seeing that this building is in the town limits, it's a historical building, that there's some kind of way we as a town, municipality couldn't get some kind of occupancy of that building because of the history behind it being in the town government. I know it's county property, but you look at all the different buildings that's being distributed out in the community, in the county, or you look towards the south side, it just seems that Elkton doesn't get anything, any breaks for anything. I'm a little bit puzzled that this building over here doesn't just belong to the town government because it's the town seat. But I'm just bringing that up.
It's the structure owned by the state, and then once the state declares the property surplus, they put it in a very elaborate process to determine its value and how they dispose of it. Because we're a municipal government, the county government, they have a first right of refusal, because that's their option is to go to another government for its use. In the absence of that, they have to sell the property. We would have to purchase it for whatever its value is. Bel Air did the same thing. They put like $1 million into the improvements, and then they got it for $1, but they had to put that $1 million in first.
I guess what I'm getting at is,
we would get it for free.
Oh, I understand, but I guess what I'm saying is, you go into a certain state or town, counties working, as we call it, working together with each other, and then you see the need. Here we talk about the need of certain facilities or buildings. And I'm just saying that, you know, it just doesn't seem like we're working together with the county as far as the town. That's basically
And the
my
state,
point.
you mean, together
Yes.
in a reasonable.
And that's just my opinion.
Well, I think it, I have to say, I think it's, I will say it's, I think it's a little premature to find out what the cost is. We did receive a letter. We know that Aberdeen, or Bel Air paid $1, but they put over $1 million worth of improvements during the rental time that they had. And I think the value in Bel Air was like $1 million. We understand the assessed value of this one was almost close to $700,000. $760,000. And I had actually asked if we could start leasing the property today, but it's still armed. That building will continue to be armed until 2019.
But the irony of it is that on the Maryland Military Department's website, it shows the Elkton Armory is subject to rental.
Yes.
It shows that, and I don't know if I think when we were over there, I don't think they do, but it shows on their website that it's you can rent. But I don't think you can rent the whole armory, I think maybe get a rent part of it.
Well, can't we do a letter, can't we say that we are interested in it? Why do we have to commit to anything?
They're asking for a commitment. That's the
Oh.
clearinghouse, once it's committed from the government,
$750,000?
so they know how to process their system. You just can't say maybe, you know.
Okay, so say we're committed. What does that cost us? If the thing isn't even gonna be ready for a couple of years?
The whole thing will end up, for the town getting an agreement to purchase it.
But we don't know at this point what it truly would be. Even though-
$760,000 is,
That's
I
the
think,
guess?
that's what I think it's gonna be based on the assessment of the property. That was what, that's the information I got.
Is this something that we could possibly request grants for, like strategic demolition grants for the acquisition of property? Unless you're for state property, you have to purchase state property. I'd have to check to see if you can use state funds.
I don't think you can use state funds, why state's not.
Well, my next question was gonna ask you if you had any input, ideas,
Regarding the use of the acquisition.
acquisition.
I could explore with my friends at the state to see how we could acquire the property if they're gonna sell it to us, if that's the ultimate decision, so the state will sell it to us for a certain amount. Be nice to know what that amount is, but I guess it's just the beginning of the process yet, right? We haven't appraised the property or.
I think the other challenging part is that, and I don't want to say one over the other, but we're going to have a huge commitment in moving forward with that community center. And I will tell you financially, I'm not sure if we can swing both. I think that's probably the biggest challenge that I think that we have is the operational functioning of that. And that's the challenging part.
Yeah, that's the upkeep of that building.
Oh, my gosh. I want them both. I think I can speak for everyone here. We want them both, but, and I think our residents of the town would love to have them both, but I can't, unless there's a plan in place to figure out how we can fund both facilities, it's gonna be very, very difficult.
Do we know
That's
what
the
the
tough
costs
part.
are for electricity and heat for the building?
I think we have all that, or we can get all that from the,
I requested it, and I haven't got it yet, but it's, they don't have gas service, it's just oil and electricity,
It's oil?
and then oil heat, oil fired.
I'm afraid somebody's gonna buy it, tear it down.
no, they can't tear it
They
down.
can't tear it
They
down.
can't, so
No.
who's gonna buy it?
It's on the, historic trust, I think it's recorded,
No, they
Yeah,
can't tear it
but,
down.
I don't think you can tear it.
it's not, unless it's under easement, you can tear it down.
I don't know how.
You can.
You'd have to have permission from our historic district commission or challenge a decision by our historic district commission if they deny it, but.
They might just end up giving it to us. Because they can't do nothing else with it.
Still got to come up with the rate me.
That's the, once again, that's the challenging part, is I can't I can't see, it's hard for me to see how the road to do them both. Very difficult for me to see that.
Yeah, I do, I understand that. I just,
That's
I'd like
the-
her to reach out, like she said. You know,
I don't want to close,
Sorry.
and I agree, I don't want to shut the door neither.
No, I don't.
And I don't think so either, because that building is so close and so valuable, you can do other things in it.
Right, it's right across the street.
Yeah.
You could use storage space.
Oh, gosh.
I'm sure
Storage.
definitely in the basement, we
Hey,
could use storage.
it is what it is.
Well, with that,
Thank you, Gina.
it is 10 minutes to 2. I think we covered everything. Does it?
We're,
The next one.
we have a dam.
Oh, my gosh, I had a little check on it. Okay, the Big Elk Creek sediment removal project. Lou, what is that?
Gene had asked if we could pursue that.
Okay, Gene.
I don't know how much it would cost, but the board has deferred doing it for years because they thought the state won't do it. That's
I guess my question is, how are we going to deal with the fact that it's damming up? I mean, I guess when I saw what we're doing at Winter Park, I was curious why we couldn't utilize that equipment to clean that up a little bit. I mean, is it all because it's too difficult through the state? Do we have to have that many permits to do it? Or?
Oh, yeah.
We have to?
Highly regulated, so area. We just need to have,
Is there anything?
the board would have to agree to pursue it, and then I just get KCI to get the joint permit, and we would launch into the project.
So if
I mean,
it's
you
a
gotta pay
question
for it.
of
We
getting
gotta
the
pay for it.
permit, we have the equipment to do it.
We would rent probably probably a Long Reach might get it, but we did have permit from the state highway, because we had to shut down Delaware Avenue during the
Oh.
course of what we're doing it.
Well, what are we gonna do if we don't do something, is my question.
I don't know.
It's just gonna, dam up?
Yeah, it's really getting bad.
I mean, it's just progressive at first. Is that the idea?
Well, you have to keep in mind that all the sediment from that area was removed 2 times before for a state project. And the consequence had absolutely no effect on flooding, when major flooding comes, because it's a floodplain. And the bridge, the dynamics or the hole under which water passes will not accommodate floodwaters. That's why it floods everywhere.
So.
When you block them up more, I mean, you think that it would flood more, but actually, you could probably measure the additional flooding in a matter of an inch or 2. That's all it makes, because the floodplain is so large.
So
So
ideally.
you wouldn't see no flooding anymore, wouldn't have any effect.
Yeah, it's not the flooding that I was overly concerned about, it's just the flow.
Well, the flow had,
Of water.
flow says fine.
Would something like that be addressed if we were to get that bridge done? Would they then come through and open that up like they did on Birch Street? So that's flowing beautifully over there, I mean,
The
with the
state
bridge.
has not identified that bridge for capital improvement,
Yeah, so,
so they're not doing anything for it.
Okay, I think I think we would like to see how much it would cost us to move forward with a plan on cleaning up that area around that bridge. Or see if the Army Corps is gonna come do it, or write a letter to the state highway and have them clean it up. I know it's not our project, but our residents believe it's our project. The perception is it's owned by us and we need to do it. So Luke, could you send a letter and ask them to?
Absolutely.
Perfect.
I've done that in the past, and I can tell you what'll happen, but a quick letter.
Yeah, let's send
and
them a quick note. And then going along with the Marina Park, I think that we're working on that, on a plan.
Dan has said as soon as it's finished what he's working on now with that, we'll get together and develop a plan.
And develop a plan. I'd love to see the plan include, maybe we could get some costs on what the dredging of that Elk Creek would be. I think I gave Dan, the guy Ted Mercer who does that work, and give us a ballpark figure. It doesn't have to be going through KCI. Maybe he can give us a square footage or cubic yard price. Then it don't have to go through KCI.
Well, it's not a matter of that. It's
Budgeting purposes.
We're talking about dredging the Big Elk Creek.
I'd love to see us dredge the Big Elk Creek from American Home and Hardware all the way out to the mouth and around Elk Landing.
Well, see, that wouldn't go through KCI. That would go, we would go to the Department of the Army, Corps of Engineers. That's all tidal water, and it's under their jurisdiction. MDE would be involved in it, but that's primarily a Corps of
Didn't we have a
Engineers.
huge study done years ago?
Yeah, the town deferred any action on that because it
Yeah.
wouldn't, it only mitigate flooding, but the ongoing maintenance cost would be hundreds of thousands of dollars, and the town deferred it.
Well, I think we've got a direction on that. And the last thing I just wanted to mention, I received an email from a resident that was trying to make a complaint against possibly our Elkton Police Department. I just wanted to stress to the town board, if we receive any emails, or if a resident or a business owner contacts you about our police department, I think it's very important that you refer them to the head of the police department, because they have a Bill of Rights. It's something that we shouldn't be involved in. They're a chain of command, and I don't believe that that's something that we as a board need to get involved in at the first step. Everyone agree, is that the correct way to go, John? I guess that would be, they have a Bill of Rights, and I don't even think they go through the HR director when it comes to those type of complaints. It goes right through it. So instead of us getting involved, and there's always a lot of other things that go along with those complaints. There's two sides to it. With that, this meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.
I see.